IVM.
Some time ago, 5 successful restaurateurs came together to form the Colaba Cartel. The founders of the table, Gauri Dayal and J. Yusuf, partnered with the founders of Woodside Inn, Abhishek Pankil Shah and Sumit Gambhir to open a new restaurant in Colaba. If you've ever dreamed of opening a restaurant or love eating out, you want to listen in. The Colaba Cartel. This exclusive 10-part series is hosted by Gauri Dayal and Amit Doshi.
Welcome to episode 3 of the Colaba Cartel. On this episode, along with my co-host Gauri, we're joined by Jay, Abhishek and Sumit. So Gauri, what are we going to talk about this episode?
So this time we're going to get into a little more of the nitty-gritty of what goes into conceptualizing a restaurant and the specifics behind Miss T.
So, welcome guys.
Hey.
Hi. So the first question that I kind of want to get into over here when we talk about location is, right? What comes first, location or concept? Is that like a chicken and egg question, or is that a real question?
Totally is. It totally is.
Okay.
Depends. Depends on if you have something in mind. You look for a location, or you find a location and you get something together. So it's a tough call.
I say it's the concept because everyone starts with a concept, not the location.
Right.
They look for the location with the concept.
Okay.
Because it's like, say, for example, a lot of chef-driven restaurants. There are certain cuisine they work on, and they open the restaurant according to their expertise, right?
Right.
So location comes next, but they want the right location for their concept.
Okay, that makes a certain amount of sense. What about you, Gauri? How do you think about this?
I think it is mostly, concept driven, but sometimes the location drives the concept, like in our case, where, you get a great location and it happens to be in the backyard of your existing restaurant, so it's going to be a new concept.
What Jay said is right. I mean, that's the most, that's the way one should go, Sure. However, sometimes like we're stuck, with locations in Bombay, and sometimes something amazing pops up, and then you have to kind of rejig your mind and accelerate towards something that you believed in.
Right. So like most things about reality, you just have to kind of adjust to it.
You have to adjust to it.
Yeah. Sumit, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so, with our experience as well, what has happened is that, we have had the opportunities of getting great locations. And then, there have been times that we dived in, and then we realized that, okay, we got a great location with us. We have to do justice, try and see what we can come up with. And a few of our locations have been just that, Ideally, it should be a situation where you should have a clear-cut concept in mind, and then you go out looking for, a space that is suited to your concept.
Right.
But yeah, this is how Bombay works as well, and we've taken the plunge many a time with great locations.
I can actually relate to that really well with the podcasting space, right? Ideally, I should come up with the concept and then go out and cast the best person to do it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you wind up just doing stuff with whoever you can find who is willing, able, and reasonably okay at doing stuff. So sometimes you just got to kind of just adjust to what's available.
Sure, but even with a location, you have to do your best for that location as well.
Of course.
You don't want to do a job where you do a half-hearted job.
You don't want to do you don't want to do shitty work. That exactly. I think is obviously clear with the kind of stuff that you guys have done before. That nobody's interested in doing second or not even second rate, right? I don't even want to call it that. Nobody's interested in doing work which is even like a little
something
bit
we're not
lower
proud
than,
of.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I think the next thing I'd like to ask is what exactly is involved in conceptualization, right? What are the kind of factors that you look at? Jay, would you like to address that?
Yeah. First of all, in this for Misty, let me talk about how we got to Misty and Asian cuisine or golden triangle. That what we are trying to achieve here is, in this case, we came across a location. And then we walked backward because we are already existing restaurateurs. So when the location came around, so we start thinking about what will be the right fit for that location. So, and we started brainstorming about what is it missing in Colaba. And then the reason we picked Asian restaurant was, again, Indian. We tend to love Asian food, Chinese, any Pan-Asian. They have done very well in the city. So, and there is also a lot of gap here. If you look at a Chinese restaurant. There are a couple of Chinese restaurants which are doing very well, and they're the best. And then there are many they're good.
They're there.
They're
okay.
there.
Yeah.
So that's what became very important for us as a Misty, is to bring something in the Asian cuisine, something which we as five of us wanted that restaurant to be.
So I actually want to step back a little bit and kind of look at this from a more theoretical perspective, right? So you all have been involved in numerous restaurants and creating numerous restaurants, right? So you must have some thoughts around, like, when you're creating a concept, do you have a checklist around what kind of things you want to make sure that you address in that conceptualization process? Gauri, would you like to address that?
I think one big thing is, so it's given that whatever you're going to do well, and you're going to do it to a certain standard, etc. I think the one big thing that drives coming up with a new concept is finding a gap in the market. Again, going back to what Jay said, where you're located and seeing what else is around you. Because Bombay is so spread out now that people don't want to have to, trek across the city. So looking at what gaps there are in that neighborhood is a good start. And then sort of also it being something that, you personally love, as in, that's, I think, very important. And what's also equally important is not doing something that's worked for someone else and you feel you can kind of replicate easily.
Right.
Because there's so much that goes into else's success that it's not just a matter of, ripping it off and trying to do it cheaper and things. So that's, I think, the key thing that, is important to keep in mind when you're coming up with the concept.
Originality is the very, very important thing in the restaurant.
Right.
Yeah, you have to be original. You can't be a copycat.
Right.
And copycat works for a few, maybe for a start, but you have to have certain thing of your own.
Right. That makes sense. Sumit, when you think about conceptualization, right? I mean, like, do you think about it in a holistic way, or do you think about it from, like, individual perspectives? Or, like, I was looking into some things which would be part of what I consider a concept of a restaurant, right? So things like how you're deciding your pricing, how you're deciding the cuisine of the place, what's going to be there in the bar, what kind of bar is it going to be? Is it going to be a friendly bar? Is it going to be a bar that just does service for tables? All that kind of stuff, I'm assuming, comes into it, right? But do you look at these things individually, or do you kind of try and meld them all into something?
So when we are looking for, when we're coming to a concept, I think what Gauri said was the word. You're always looking for a gap in the market. You're always looking for that space that, exists. And, there are various experiences that are similar and, fit in that sort of space where, people have an experience of what you're trying to give. But it has to be a very unique idea. And that, with our experience with Woodside and the pantry, we realized that we did something that was different, but not so different that it just, it just bounced over people's head.
Right.
So that sort of, doing something, doing it well, but, identifying that there is a space for a certain style of restaurant that you're building, which is going to be unique, it's going to be different, and it's something that you like as well. And you're seeing, that, maybe I would enjoy that sort of food, or I would enjoy that sort of experience, is what you're looking for.
Right.
So with the space that, we are building, we've clearly seen, a gap for the sort of food that all of us enjoy. The sort of bar experience that all of us enjoy, but we clearly see that, hey, there's this, aspect missing in Colaba.
Right.
And it would be nice to go out to a space like this, on a given night,
right,
or for lunch as well. And that's what, helped us sort of, strongly, get to the concept that we all felt was right for the space.
Right. Cool. All right. That's actually really interesting. That helps clarify a lot about how you guys are thinking about the conception itself of the restaurant. Let me kind of ask you to clarify, or rather contrast between, like, a concept, like you've conceptualized your restaurant, right? As a layman, you hear about things like concept restaurants, right? Which I think is a synonym for theme restaurants in some way. I mean, like, how would you kind of compare what happens in those kinds of areas as opposed to what you guys are trying to do with what you're doing? Abhishek, you want to?
Yes, I think, both sides of the story work. So concept restaurants also work, and individual style restaurants work. We predominantly have worked in the latter.
Right.
So our experience, we can speak more about that experience. But to elaborate on that experience, I think ownership is something that's very important. Owning the idea, expressing your idea is very important. That's the fundamental of the individualistic style of restaurants. When I say individualistic, I mean a group of people coming together, right, and delivering something that they
standalone
are purely passionate about. As far as the concept is concerned, sometimes, things work for a certain market, and sometimes things are, required in a certain market, and people kind of flock to it. But the shelf life of that concept is, you can't determine. It's in Bombay, I would say there are a few concept restaurants that have survived the true test of time, but I can't really put a finger on what's better to pick.
Well, okay. Gauri?
I think I know that one thing that we all thought about when we were trying to conceptualize this restaurant, whether it's in terms of food or the design or, just finding what was needed in this neighborhood, was that whatever it is, it has to be something timeless. That's a word that kept coming back to us, that, it's something that transcends a year, 2 years, 3 years. All our restaurants have sort of been for over 8 years, and that's something that's really key to the success of this business. I mean, this business takes time to actually deliver sort of profit, and so it's important to not think of it in a short-term way, but really in a long-term way. So your concept has to withstand that. It can't be something that's trendy and gonna just sort of work for that sort of next year.
Jay?
You brought the word theme restaurants. Theme restaurants work in certain countries, in certain cities.
Right.
Japan is, for example, it's all about theme. Florida in US is a lot of theme. I don't think it works for every city, every theme restaurant. I feel like that's very unique for that country and the city.
For those geographies. Yeah, I buy that as well. Yeah. I mean, to me, I think what I'm trying to get over here is see, when you're creating a restaurant with a concept, right? How do you thread that needle to ensure that you don't get into the gimmicky space, right? That I think is kind of the more is what I'm trying to get from you to answer. So Abhishek, you want to answer that?
Well, just to go back to the conceptual part, one thing that we said in 2007 when we built the first website, and is that we were surrounded by a lot of legendary spaces. Now, that have been in Colaba for 20 years, 30 years, Indigo was amongst them. I crossed 10 years by them. And, we always, three of us said that, hey man, we're not going to build a restaurant. We're going to build an institution.
Right.
An institution that will be legendary, that will be a part of this ecosystem and cannot be forgotten.
Right.
That was our fundamental for every restaurant that we kind of put out. It kind of has to fit into that neighborhood and has to belong.
Right.
So culture was more important than just kind of creating something that's going to be a need of the hour or a gimmick.
Right.
So bringing that to gimmick, gimmick is something that you create excitement. You create excitement based on trends. You create excitement based on, things that are the need of the hour.
Right.
Colors, ingredients, whatever. They survive for a certain amount of time. Every restaurant requires, a certain amount of excitement. Now, whether someone uses gimmick or someone uses ingredients or someone uses anything else, it is an important part, but you cannot write an entire story on gimmick.
Right.
As soon as you start putting the, food on vehicles and the vehicles start going around and then the vehicle goes somewhere else and picks up more food and brings it back to you. I mean, hey, you're going to enjoy that for a second,
right.
And then you're going to be like, I just need to eat some food.
Yeah.
I want to eat some good food. I want to have some good company and enjoy my evening.
Right.
Finally, they'll say, bring my food on a plate.
All right, great, guys. That was actually a really interesting way to kind of talk about conceptualization itself. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk about how you conceptualize Misty and what are the thoughts behind that. So we'll be back right after this.
Look, up in the internet. It's a meme. No, it's a cat video. No, it's the Geek Fruit Podcast.
That's right, we interrupt this riveting broadcast to tell you about our show, the Geek Fruit Podcast, where Tejas, Dinkar and I, Jishnu, talk about everything in pop culture, including DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Netflix, and everything in between.
You know how your friends hate it when you ramble about some nerdy crap and you just want somebody to listen to you? Well, sorry, there's nothing we can do about that, but come listen to us ramble and it'll almost be like the real thing. Kind of.
Listen to new episodes of the Geek Fruit Podcast every Monday and the Geek Fruit Bulletin every Thursday on iTunes, Google Podcasts, the IVM app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy listening, you nerds.
Welcome back, and I'm with the four members of the Colaba Cartel, Abhishek, Sumit, Gauri, and Jay. So, guys, let's kind of talk about your newest restaurant, or the new restaurant that's soon to open, Misty. what is the concept behind Misty, right? I mean, like, we've had a little bit of, we've danced around it a little bit, but like, let's just kind of get into what is the concept behind Misty. Gauri, you want to get into this?
So in the easiest sense of the word, it's Pan-Asian, but there's a clear focus on the sort of Southeast Asian region, which is sort of Burmese, Vietnam, Cambodia, that sort of bit of Thailand. It's sort of a focus on that. But at the end of the day, it is an Asian restaurant.
Right. Okay. That's the cuisine, right? But I mean, like, what about the other factors in terms of like what you're looking at from this space?
So it's a casual fine dining space. It is intended to be very much a neighborhood space that has a great bar vibe as well. Mm-hmm. Somewhere that you could come on, a date night, but also just with your girlfriends or, just for a nice, easy lunch. The food is going to be the idea is that the food is great, soulful, hearty food, but which tastes exceptional and is made with quality ingredients. That's something I think that we're all sort of known for in our sort of respective spaces. So that's something that's going to come through, and it's just that it's a different cuisine this time round. Mm-hmm. But the idea is also to have a really nice bar, which, sort of makes fabulous cocktails.
Right.
That's been a big part of our, the conceptualization, is that we want it to be as sort of, a destination as much for drinks as it is for the food. Mm-hmm. And we're sort of,
Jay, do you want to add on to that?
So, last 7 years or 8 years, what you have learned from table, ingredients are the star. So we want to bring that into Asian cuisine. So everything that we have learned there will be applied into this cuisine. The chefs and what the kind of chefs we are targeting knows that element. There will be a couple of guest chefs from San Francisco and LA. So they are bringing their know-how into the Asian cuisine. Mm-hmm. And what I mean is like they're bringing Californian twist into the Asian menu. So that's what, and when we are talking about bar, Abhishek, Pankaj and Sumit, they're experts. I mean, they have run this gastro bar. Mm-hmm. And bar is such a big part of Utsaidin, and food is such a big part of table. So we are combining these two teams to bring two elements of a restaurant together.
That's interesting. So how are you guys thinking about the bar, right? I mean, like when you're thinking of, or actually not even just the bar, just the general are you on the same page? Well, you clearly are, but I mean, like, would you like to add on to things?
So we totally are, and I think to add to what Gauri was saying about the restaurant, we want to create a space that has a great balance between food and beverage. At Woodside in specific, in Colaba, we see, and even in Andheri for that matter, we see a fantastic split between food and beverage. The ratio of the consumption of food and beverage is just like the way we want to see it.
Okay.
It's never tilted towards one specific side. That says something about a restaurant. That says something about the ability to deliver an entire experience over and over again.
Right.
And I think, like Jay mentioned, we're going to club these two, assets that we've kind of created and the learnings behind them into this experience. Coming to the bar, again, to add to what Jay is saying, ingredients are the stars.
Right.
And they have toiled, over the years to find the best ingredients, the best people, the greatest teams to deliver things at the table. And similarly, we've done our own at our spaces. But we want to use that same thought process for the bar. Mm-hmm. We want everything to be accessible, delicious, everything that you want in a cocktail, but also should create a feeling, should create like a feeling of excitement, a feeling of, a certain energy it should bring towards the bar. And we want to create that balance all over again. So food and beverage, we want to put them on the same pedestal,
right?
And equally push them forward.
Yeah, that's
where how we kind of...
I think that you're right. That is kind of missing right now in Colaba. Places are either drinking places or eating places, right? I mean, like that kind of place where you can go and do everything is somewhat lacking. Sumit, you have...
Yeah, so it's a delicate balance, and that's where a lot of restaurants start off thinking they'll achieve both, and then, it tilts towards one side. Right. And then, eventually what you do is you sort of go after what is succeeding. Mm-hmm. But, we're putting a lot of effort on both sides, and, there's a lot of work going into the food bit as well as the bar bit, and there's tremendous research going in on both sides. And I think that's going to be an integral part of the concept for this space, and it's going to make it so unique.
I think just as simplified way of saying things, it's going to be an adult experience.
Right.
When I say an adult experience, I mean that the primary reason why you come to a restaurant is to spend time with somebody. You go to a restaurant to either spend time with somebody and also have a certain experience that's special to you and that person. And that's what we want to create. Right. I feel people are getting lost in these theme-based ideas or anything else. It's a bit chaotic in the market, and sometimes you just want to go. You want to celebrate the time together. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to emphasize on.
And I think one thing that's really important is that we're thinking about it in a way that people don't just come there to celebrate special occasions, but it becomes something that they just crave. And they want to come and they feel comfortable and they want to just keep coming back.
It's
and you
a place
need
to
that.
hang out.
It's a place to hang out, sort of, in a sort of nice format.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
And one more thing that's very important for us is we wanted to bring the feminine side of it.
Okay.
The Misty, the name Misty, the reason we selected Misty was, like Abhishek was saying, this will be an adult place.
Right.
It's not just the adult for male adult.
Right.
It's genderless place.
Right.
That's what we are trying to create.
That's actually really interesting. So, I mean, you guys clearly have a lot of thoughts around, how you're going to put this stuff together. And, I mean, they all seem to be very much, synergistic in that sense. But how did you guys come up with all of this, right? I mean, what is the story of conception for this particular thing? We spoke about this briefly when it came to the location. You got together for dinner and you're like, hey, let's do this. And 24 hours later, you're running, right? But when it comes to this, hammering out, how this restaurant's going to operate, how it's going to feel, how it's going to, what kind of food, that story is something that we still haven't done.
18 years of experience.
He got it. That's the point. That's exactly what I was going to say. That's what Jay said is bang on.
Yep.
I mean, we're not first-time restaurateurs. Thankfully we have a decent amount of vintage under our belt, and that vintage and that experience and that dedication kind of has resulted in some fruit. And we want to focus on that. For us, there are certain things that have always been very, very important. Women feeling safe, women feeling, it's a friendly atmosphere, women feeling, it is an environment where they can come and relax and, let their hair down and not be worried about anything, And I think these are the kind of things that we've kind of focused on, creating facilities for them, So we've thought balance is the key factor in all these things. You have to be able to get to a point where you can think of everything in the same way. You don't suddenly start tilting ship towards one thing that is okay, okay, now unfortunately this is the way it's working out. No, that's not the way we want to do it. We want to try our best to create the best balance for it.
It's like he's saying, it's a holistic experience. So it's not like, oh, the food's great but the cocktails are okay, or the food they've got but then service is really bad. It's like a holistic experience, and you have to think through every single aspect of it till you get it sort of, you're like, okay, this is what it's going to be. And of course the whole thing has to come together. But I think that it's thinking about, at the end of the day, what is it that you want to go to if you go out? I think it's going back to that, making it personal.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
And we are 5 of us.
Yes.
And getting an idea agreed by 5 of us is very difficult.
But I think that validates it tremendously, right? If you guys can all agree on something.
All agreeing on something is
I think
what
there's a lot of amazing things that we have all learned, in these past 3 to 4 months that we've worked so closely together. And, Pankaj, Sumit and me, we are 3 people, and we've been in business together for 11 years now. Not once did it cross our minds saying that, holy shit, we're 3 already, we're going to get 2 more to the mix. This is insane. Not once did it cross our mind. Not once, all the debates, Jay actually, back in the day said one thing where, let's bring the point onto the table, put it on the table so we can look at it, we can examine it, and everyone can give their 2 cents.
Right.
What we come out with a decision after that, we'll see.
Right.
But there could be something that is, in someone's expression that that's the stone that you've not looked under. You've left that stone unturned, and that's the idea you should have latched onto. So giving these things time stems from a place of being comfortable, true and respectful of the people that you work with, and then these things are a good platform to kind of...
Then you can build on that.
Yes, build on that.
Absolutely.
And have a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, hey, that's... I would hope so. Okay, so one other thing that kind of occurred to me is... it's an Oriental restaurant in Colaba, right? So how much of that was affected by the general neighborhood competitive landscape, right? The idea behind why you picked this particular kind of cuisine. Because again, from a conceptual perspective, we've spoken kind of a little bit about this. We've touched on it a little bit earlier, but I thought that, this is something that we should kind of make a little more explicit, right? Sumit, yeah.
So, I think there are various terms in which, people define this sort of experience, whether it's Oriental, Asian, Pan-Asian, there are various forms. But I think one thing for sure, the flavors, these Asian flavors are, something that all of us enjoy. And that's when we felt that, let's try and see if there's something different that we enjoy, but it's in the same it's from the same style or the same family that, that of the food that is something that, will succeed. It's definitely not, an extreme left of the center idea.
Right.
And that's the reason where, we spoke about the food that is, influenced by the regions, that, Burma, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, and a little more of Asia as well.
Right.
And that together in the format that we're talking about and the experience that we're providing has never been done before.
Right.
It's never been done before. And that gave us the confidence of doing something new because, maybe others have done, different cuisines. We've seen Thai restaurants. We have seen restaurants that are influenced by Burma, for example. But together, in the sort of casual fine dine restaurant that we're trying to build, hasn't been done with the same food.
Right.
And that's where, I think, we all agreed.
I also think there is a little bit of a shortage of Asian restaurants in the area right now, isn't there? I mean, like Henry Tham's shut down.
Not necessarily.
No, you don't
I
think
think there is, but this is one thing that I've learned in my experiences with the table is that you sort of, yes, you do have an awareness of what's coming up around you, and you of course should be sort of, conscious of it. But I think at the end of the day, you really have to believe in what you're doing very strongly and just keep your head down and do it.
Right.
Like you can't be distracted and trying to keep up with the Jones kind of thing. Like
exactly.
It's like, the neighbors will be doing what they're doing, and today there may be like 3 other restaurants doing Asian, tomorrow there could be 10. You really don't know what's coming up around you and what will be there sort of a year down the line. So it's important to do what concept you're doing for the right reasons and something that you really believe in, and then just focus on getting that 100% right.
And one more thing I want to add is it is an Asian restaurant, but we are bringing our experience into the restaurant, into the cuisine.
And that's not replicable, just to add, there are, from just that time you made the statement about the number of Asian restaurants, there are close to, between the star hotels and the standalone, there are probably close to 10 to 11 Asian restaurants. When I say Asian, I mean like all Asian.
All of that, but I'm clearly not
10
going
to
to
11
Colaba enough.
standalone restaurants in the 5-kilometer radius from us.
Okay.
So I'm just talking, I'm not even going beyond Marine Drive.
Right.
It's just basically the start of Marine Drive all the way into Colaba. There are at least 10.
I would say
more. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm clearly wrong about that.
There's a tremendous amount of restaurants there. Just the point is,
different target audiences.
Right.
I think Asian restaurants, again, because Chinese or Asian food is something that everyone loves while growing up.
Right.
It's comfort food. Everyone's grown up eating this food. So there are different restaurants in the Asian sort of influenced by Asian food.
Right.
For different audiences, where a few of them are, have been around for years, like the Lynx Pavilion for that matter.
That was the only one I could think of.
Yeah. Or for that matter, Golden Dragon and, Royal China. These are great restaurants that have been... these are restaurants, or different formats or takeaway joints.
I think of those as not Colaba.
Sure.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
the thing is, I think, what we're talking about, the experience that we're trying to build is so different from, what, the strong points of these restaurants are, that we believe very strongly that it's got its unique space in Colaba.
Yeah, I buy that for sure. Yeah. I mean, we're talking quite a bit about Asian cuisine, right? So one question that comes to me is all of your existing restaurants, none of them are in the Asian space, right? What challenges does that kind of create? I mean, like, is that a challenge to kind of start working something in that space which you've not done before? How do you address those things?
I think there is a little bit of excitement with this. When you're given, when we don't take the classic traditional approach, and we take an approach which is based on those fundamentals, but it's more towards creating eclectic cuisine. You have the opportunity of, expressing yourself the way you want to. And I think that's the excitement. That's the part that's really the kick, and that's not replicable. That's exactly what Jay pointed out, and Gauri said, and even Sumit said for that matter, whatever's in the market is in the market. Pankaj thinks the same way.
Right.
Whatever's in the market is in the market. You got to focus on what your strengths are, put your head down, don't worry about the rest, and just deliver. Yep. Just keep at it. You will find your way.
Awesome. So that was fun, Gauri. I mean, it was a really interesting and enlightening kind of conversation to have.
Well, if you're talking about enlightening, we've got a very special guest joining the Cartel next episode.
We're bringing in an outside hitter.
Yes, we are. It's Zubin Zainuddin from ZZ Architects, who is the man behind the design.
Awesome. Please make sure that you tune in for the next episode. In the meantime, please also make sure that you're following us on social media. If you want to follow the Misty restaurant, that's Misty Colaba on Instagram or Twitter. Gauri is at G Devi Dayal on Instagram. And also please make sure you're following IVM Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Give me a word. या कोई भी लाइन. कुछ भी हो सकता है यार. क्या कहा आपने? टोपी. Okay. Mohan Joshi hated wearing topis. He felt suffocated in them. टोपी पहनते ही उसे स्कूल की याद आती थी. Where of course he had no choice but to wear a टोपी. But जिस दिन पास आउट हुआ, उसी दिन उसने अपनी टोपी का bonfire बना दिया. And since then, he'd never worn a cap or a hat. ना कड़कती धूप में, and not even to bacho from the thandi. But from Monday 26th February, Mohan Joshi had to wear a topi all the time. Why? Because if he didn't, everyone around him knew exactly what kya soch raha tha. They knew that he was wondering how the girl in the yellow churidar would look bina kapde ke. They knew when he was calling the boss a sadela tomato. They knew everything. पर ये सब हुआ कैसे? अरे भाई, यही तो स्टोरी है. और ये स्टोरी आप ही ने मुझे दिया by giving me the starting word. यही तो है The Croc's Tales. Words आपके, कहानी आपके लिए. Catch the stories on Monday and Thursday on the IVM website, app, and anywhere you get your podcast from. See you soon.
Long, long ago, not in Bethlehem, but in a place nearby, there was a wonderful birth of a huge show, which I like to call Cyrus Says. A show that encapsulates everything in human history, from the first Homo sapien to the last Homo sapien, who's traversed the entire world and then come back to India. This is a show which tells you everything about everything. If you want to know, avoid Google, come to us. It's called Cyrus Says. Get new episodes every Monday and Thursday on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts from. It's simple as A, B, oh God, what comes after that?